Good morning, folks. Welcome to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, your host, and we're in luck because we're on the agronomy farm here at the K-State campus, and we're also in luck because we're going to be talking to Dr. Deanne Presley, our soil and water quality specialist. And Deanne is going to be talking to us in particular about soil management. And I know one thing she's going to be talking to us about is soil compaction. So get your cup of coffee, hurry on back so we can start the show.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, your host, and we're in luck because we're on the agronomy farm, well, actually several feet below the surface here of the agronomy farm. And also, we're in luck because we have Dr. Deanne Presley with us. She is our soil management specialist. And Deanne, tell me, what are we doing in this hole? What do you got here?
I'm checking out the soil profile. That's
Okay.
what we call a vertical exposure of soil. It's a soil profile. And I can look at a soil profile and I can tell a lot about the soil, how it got here, kind of its history.
How old it is?
How old it is. I can do that. I know because we've got some radiocarbon dates from this soil. And also I can tell a lot by looking at the management, how this soil maybe has been used, maybe abused, but since the time that it was taken from prairie and turned into cropland. So that's what I'm doing with the soil.
Okay, well, keep on going.
All right. So every soil has a topsoil, and in this case, when I pick down with my knife, it gets to be from about here to here that there's a change, what I would call the topsoil here and subsoil in this part.
Yeah, I can see a color change just right in here, right there where you put the knife.
I agree, and I felt that also. I was feeling it with clay content change. So here, in this part of the profile, I was feeling it a little while ago, rubbing, making some kind of a mud ball. We call that texture by feel. I can feel about 35% clay here and about 44% clay in this zone. And it's interesting, that's a natural process that took tens of thousands of years to happen, where rainwater has come into the soil, moved clay from this part, and accumulated it right here. That's called illuviation, but many, many, many soils in Kansas and throughout the Great Plains have that feature, where it's a little bit lower clay content here and greater clay content here from the rainwater washing it down. Another thing, I said topsoil. Topsoil is the upper part that's got lots of organic matter from the plants. So if this was tall grass prairie, in tall grass prairie, about 70% of the weight of a plant is below the ground.
Exactly.
So 70% is in the roots, and maybe 30% of what that whole mass of the plant is above the ground. So if you have 30,000 years or so of prairie grasses growing, living and dying, but the roots live and die down here, it accumulated vast amounts of organic matter, so decomposed crop tissues or plant tissues, and so this is
And it's also rich with microbes as well.
Oh, definitely.
Especially active in this top foot.
Very, very active. Yes, if we had a little graph that showed how many microbes with respect to depth, many more microbes very active up here in the top part, and then they get considerably less numbers and less activity down here lower. They need oxygen for the most part.
So tell me, why is this color difference here?
Okay, so here, again, this is from, the black is from the organic matter, and once we see colors that are a little bit more brown, that has to do with the main minerals in soil. And so instead of having so much organic matter, now probably most of this color is coming from things like feldspars and micas, some of the quartzes.
Closer to the parent material, is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, exactly, the parent material. So for the parent material for this soil, most of this would have come from thousands and thousands of miles away, been blown in here and mantled the existing landscape. So here in Manhattan, we have the Flint Hills, and then less was blown in from places like Colorado, Wyoming, places far away, sources of dust, and deposited as it would fall on the grasslands and accumulate over thousands and thousands of years.
Deanne, we got to take a break right now, so stay with us. Don't run away during this commercial break. And folks, stay with us. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com. Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, your host, and with us we have Dr. Deanne Presley, our soil management specialist. And as you can see, we're still in the hole. Deanne has more to tell us about this soil profile here. So Deanne, tell us a little bit more what we have here.
Sure. Well, this is probably something most people don't think about when they think about their soil, but how old is it? And it turns out you can do things like radiocarbon date soils.
And you mentioned that a second ago.
Yeah. If we take a sample, I can send this into a laboratory. In fact, I've done this. And the soil, this part of the soil profile usually dates to about 20,000 years ago. So we know that it's been forming and plants have been growing and living on the surface for about 20,000 years. And if I go down here deeper in the soil profile, yeah, because there's actually more layers. We call soil layers horizons, by the way, but down here there's even more deeper layers. And this soil is actually older. So old soils are called like paleontology, right?
Right, old,
Paleosol.
ancient.
Paleosols. And so paleosols, this paleosol here dates to about 30,000 years.
Really?
So the fact that we do have different layers tells us that there's been different episodes, different pulses of sediment that have come in, blown in, and that's very consistent with what was happening through the rest of the continent in that time. So different times where glaciers were active, where there was lots of sediment and erosion someplace else leads to deposition here.
Right, right.
Really cool. And a couple more things I can talk about with respect to layers in soil is if anybody has a basement, then these colors here can tell us a lot. So in this piece in my hand, I know it's hard for other people to see, but in my piece in my hand I can see places that are a little browner, maybe a little redder, and other places that are a little grayer.
Right.
And that means that this soil has a water table that fluctuates. It might come up and go down and come up and go down, and you ask me how often, and that's really impossible to know unless you had a monitoring well or something here to check that water table.
But you alluded to basements.
Yes.
Okay, continue that thought process.
Well, we've all been sleeping, and have you ever heard a sump pump kick on in the middle of the night?
Exactly.
I'm so glad that kicked on. That's what this soil, first of all, it's highly expansive. Dug this a couple days ago, and it was really, really wet, and you see all these cracks maybe starting to form now? That tells me that this soil is a clayey soil, and I can also feel that in my hand. But clay, shrinking, swelling, cracking clay is a really common feature in Kansas, but this color also tells me, yes, a water table, it can come up and go down and come up and go down. So as far as a basement goes, I think we always want, basements are a good thing from storms, but also this means it's going to be a little tricky, and we have to deal with some cracked drywall every now and then with a cracking clay like this is what I would call it.
Right. Okay. Well, Deanna, we got to take another break here, and maybe we'll get out of the hole here and talk about some compaction and that sort of thing. So stay with us, and folks, you stay with us as well. Now's your time to get a cup of coffee, and we'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
We started farming in 1970. It was harder work then than it is now, a lot more physical work and the wear and tear on my knees and my body. Now here I'm 70 years old. I started having knee pain here 4 or 5 years ago, and so I was looking for a stem cell clinic, and lo and behold, my good friend John Farley and Ken Wood, who'd been customers and friends for a number of years, opened their clinic, and in about 2 months my heel was a lot better, and then at the end of 3 months and then going on 4, why my knee started making significant improvement, and it's sure been a blessing, because before I had the stem cells, well, I'd be driving a tractor, and if I sat in a tractor for 2 or 3 hours, when I got out, I'd have to stop and get the kinks out of my knee and shake it. And today, that's not a problem.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, and with us we have Dr. Deanne Presley, and we're standing in a no-till soybean field here. Corn was this past year. Deanne, you've got a funny little machine right here in front of you that I know what it is, but I want to talk about compaction, because I think that we lose lots of bushels in all our crops from compaction. So talk to us a little bit about compaction, maybe what soils are maybe a little more prone to it, and what this funny apparatus is.
Sure. So I would agree with you, what you said about compaction being it's kind of a sneaky yield thief, and that is compaction is always, it shows up really bad in wet years. So if the soil were holding up, if there was compaction, which compaction is pretty straightforward in that it's where we take a soil that normally has a bunch of pores in it and squash out all the air from those pores. So again, it's just denser than it should be. Right. So in a really, really wet year, if the soil was compacted, it would pond water. And I can tell you that this soil must not be that compacted, because a couple days ago, we had 1.5 inches of rain, and it's all soaked in quite nicely.
Well, that's what it's supposed to do in a no-till soil.
It is, yeah. This has actually been no-tilled since 1999, so going on, I think it's the 16th year of no-till, and that, of course, means without any tillage anymore. So the seeds are directly planted into the ground. And over time, no-till soils actually build up better structure. I have a nice paper, sometimes I reference that, but it shows the difference between a conventionally tilled soil and a no-tilled soil. You can traffic across this field much more than you could a conventionally tilled field. You'd cause less compaction, and you'd be able to do it wetter. All things being equal.
Well, obviously you don't want to drive across wet fields, whether it's no-till or conventional, but you're saying you can abuse this a little bit more.
Well, we would say it's more resilient to
that's
compaction.
A better term.
Yes, soils have resilience, right? That's a nice way of putting it. So not that you would, but it's just that you could. So it resists compaction better because we've got more structure. Instead of think of a bunch of construction materials laying willy-nilly versus construction materials nailed together, right? There's structure. So organic matter has taken sand, silt, and clay particles and really built it into
Well, we saw that a little bit ago, when we were in the pit, that the topsoil had some structure to it. When we smashed it, and before we rolled it into a ball or a ribbon, you could see that structure there.
Yep, and you could break it open and see pores through it. So that's really important. Soils must breathe. They have to get oxygen needs to get in and carbon dioxide needs to get out, and so that structure and porosity is very important.
And also, the structure is important so the water can penetrate. We've had a lot of rainfall this spring and early summer, and I'm thinking that with soils that won't hold water, it will help the bacteria for soybeans, and so we don't have saturated soils.
Yeah, saturated soils no good for most of our crops in Kansas.
Okay, Deanne, hang on here a second. We got to take a break, folks. Stay with us. Get you a cup of coffee, and see us back after these commercials.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand, and I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action. This time, for all time.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
No matter where, no matter why, the Veterinary Health Center at Kansas State University is committed to providing quality patient care to animals and exceptional customer service to their owners. From routine checkups to emergency and specialty care, our world-renowned specialists and experienced professionals are here to discover, to teach, and to heal.
Let us know.
How can I help?
How can we help?
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamnkansas.com.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities, big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer. Deanne Presley is with us, our soil management specialist, and we didn't get to talk about this apparatus you had here in the last segment, so tell us what it is and what you use it for.
Okay, well, I mostly use this for research. Now, it can be used by a farmer or a crop scout or something, but what I use it for is to push on the soil. So it's got...
It's on now.
Yeah, it's on now. It's got a little scale in it, just like a bathroom scale, but I'm pushing down on it instead.
Okay.
And so what I'm looking for is it's recording how many pounds per inches of pressure I'm putting on it at every given depth.
Okay.
And so what you can do is look for these dense layers with it.
Right.
Now, I like it and I don't like it because when I do that, I can't see what the plant roots are seeing. So the best thing I could do is I could take a measurement, or I could use my $5 spade and dig a hole.
Okay, we'll get to that $5 spade here in a second, but what kind of a number do you get, and what does that number really say?
Okay, so it gives me a number. 0 pounds per square inches obviously is no pressure. You and I, with our feet, we're probably exerting somewhere in the 25-ish pounds per square inch, something like that. So this is simply, if I push start, it's measuring how much pressure. So it's in pounds per square inches.
Okay, let's do
is
it.
the unit.
Okay.
I have to push start.
Okay.
Let's see. And so I'm getting readings of about 200 pounds per square inches, maybe a little higher, maybe 250, 249 right there. And so what's considered root limiting is 300 pounds per square inch. And actually at 300 pounds per square inches is where plant roots aren't seeing anything. They're not going anywhere.
It's just too compact, no pore space, and it can't penetrate.
They're just not strong enough to get through. So either they'll turn and go a different way or sideways or wherever they can do. But if you've ever seen a plant root growing down and you see it kind of flattened and smashed, if a plant root can't access the soil, it can't get at any water or any nutrients stored in that area.
And what I've seen over time has been a lot of nutrient problems, deficiencies show up because of the roots not being able to explore their environment.
Exactly.
Okay, talk to us about that $5 spade.
Yeah, so this thing is pretty expensive and I don't like it because I can't see anything. So if I go get my $5 or $10 spade, maybe it's a fancy one.
I was going to say, where'd you get one for $5? I don't want to go there. Okay, well, go ahead.
It's a fancy spade. But if I were to dig this up, the best thing I could do is use a spade to dig up the soybean roots and ask them, how are you feeling today? And look, are they twisted and deformed, or are they white and fleshy and healthy, many root hairs, and look and see if do I see big blocks of soil, or do I see more of a crumbly small blocks of soil hanging off the roots. So this is okay, but I more use this in a research context, and more, if I'm talking to a farmer or talking to a homeowner, I would be using my spade to get a better look at things.
And again, you can see the horizons, and you can see that compaction zone, and you can see the roots going horizontal as opposed to going down like they're supposed to. Deanne, hang on a second. We got one more segment to do. You folks at home, stay with us. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
When your living depends on agriculture, you can depend on KFRM 550 AM. If you're in the southwest three-fourths of Kansas or the northern half of Oklahoma, catch us at 550 AM on the radio dial. But if that isn't you, listen on your cell phone at TuneIn Radio or on your computer at KFRM.com. We promise to keep you informed, entertained, and company as you go through your day. KFRM 550 AM, the voice of the plains. We would like to join your management team.
That's My Farm is brought to you in part by Tallgrass Commodities. Big enough to serve, small enough to care.
Welcome back to That's My Farm. I'm Jim Schroyer, and with us we have Deanne Presley, soil management specialist. And Deanne, in this last section here, I want to talk about tillage a little bit. We've got a good example of no-till here, and this field right across the terrace here had been in no-till just like this one had been, but it got tilled here a couple weeks ago. So tell us, after 16 years, what's going to happen to that, and what lost? What did we lose there?
Okay, so when in no-till, one of the things we do is we build up the physical properties and the organic matter quite often. So I'm sure we've probably built up the organic matter, possibly went from maybe about 2%, maybe to 2.4, 2.5%, somewhere in there. So I don't expect that to be wiped out or changed too much overnight. Although tillage does increase the oxidation. So microbes will get in there, it's been fluffed up, the microbes will get in there and start working on it, breaking it down, that organic matter. So that will happen a little bit. Also, what I don't like about it is that now it's opened up to the possibility of erosion again. Although there are terraces on this farm, terraces are designed to capture water as it runs. Well, whenever we lose soil from one place and move it to another, it's lost. It truly is lost. We have a lot of our best soil in the world in the Gulf of Mexico forming the Delta, the Mississippi River Delta, right? So I don't like to see soil moved, and so that's what I don't like about tillage, is it opens us back up for lots of erosion. And so I don't think that the organic matter levels have been dropped overnight, but it's going to take time again for all the physical pore spaces, for all that to be rebuilt. And that process takes a while. I mean, it might take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years to build that back up again. So before it starts to really take water, as good as this does, I bet that's going to take more than a handful of years probably to build it back up.
Well, it'll be
again.
fun and interesting to watch it come back to no-till. And they used a disc on that.
It did, and a field cultivator.
And a field cultivator.
3 passes.
So tell us a little bit about that naughty farm implement, the disc.
Okay, so a disc is kind of interesting. I was always taught in college it is the implement of compaction. So
Exactly.
It's shaped as a disc. It's concave. It cups soil and lifts it, and for every action there's equal and opposite reaction. So off of the backside of a disc, there's a great amount of pressure being exerted into the soil. So probably 200 to 300 pounds, somewhere in there. Does that sound familiar? 200 to 300 pounds would be exerted off of the backside, and that then becomes root limiting. And so many times in a tilled soil, you'll find a compaction zone that's somewhere in that maybe 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 inch kind of zone.
Right.
So the disc is the number1 implement of compaction, no doubt about it.
Okay. Well, Deanne, I tell you what, I really appreciate you taking time this morning and talk to us. Always good to see you. And,
Good to see you.
We've talked about cover crops in an earlier episode. And so thank you for being with us. Folks, thank you for being with us as well. And don't forget, next Friday, about this same time, we're going to have another show on That's My Farm.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.